Greetings all, this is Nick of the Extra Hairy Variety, back again to talk about some new Star Wars Legion spoilers. Here on the FFG website, we had a couple of new articles for the Empire faction, which is actually a surprise considering all the hypes around Clone Wars now. I would have thought they were going to announce some more Clone Wars stuff, but in the meantime, we do have a bit of an imbalance on the Rebel and Empire because the Rebellion got the announcement for the Veterans and Tauntauns, and there's no equivalent for that on the Empire. And today we got the announcement of the Shore Troopers and Dewback Riders, which is meant to be like the mirror of those things on the Empire faction. And apart from anything else, before I get into having a look at what these units can do, I love the sculpt here of the Dewback Rider. It's on one of the larger bases, so similar to an 8T-RT, which is quite relevant. A lot of people are commenting on the fact that it can only move one speed, but having it on a larger base, especially with some of its keywords, which we'll talk about in a second, I don't feel like that's going to be such a big deal. Indeed, let's talk about the Dewback first. We have pretty much everything we should be expecting. We have a copy of Endurance, which is quite nice. In fact, we get that in both of these packs. So once again, FFG, making sure these cards are distributed amongst all the factions. Great to see. But the most important thing here, amongst all of these cards, we have 3 different sidearm cards, which is important because this unit does not have any ranged attacks. Just taking a look at what they can do, one of them is a flamethrower with blast, probably only range 1. One of them is a range 1 to 4, sort of a sniper rifle type of thing. No keywords, no impact or anything like that, but we don't know what dice are rolled with that. That will be interesting to see. Very, very important on a unit that only has a melee attack. If we can get that kind of range, considering it only has a 1-speed movement, that is going to help it overcome that issue quite well. Also, a more of a mid-range gun, just your 1 to 3 with 4 white dice. With critical 2, feels like a good deal for 10 points. But yes, let's have a look at the unit itself. And first of all, before we have a look at any of the stats, let's appreciate the fact that it actually does cost exactly the same as a Tauntaun, which is surprising. Most of the units that are sort of mirrored on the Rebel and Empire tend to have points differences, either one's clearly better or clearly worse. In this case, FFG have decreed that, no, these ones are going to perform about the same level of power. And it makes a lot of sense. The Tauntaun can move speed 3. This can only move speed 1, speed 2 if you give it suppression tokens. But the Dewback is a bit more tankier overall. It defends with red dice, has 6 health, 2 constitution. Doesn't have the surge on defense, but the Tauntauns only have white dice on defense, so the Dewback is already better on defense anyway. It just adds the 1 upgrade slot, which is that sidearm, which it needs to have the ranged attack, which the Tauntaun already has anyway, so there's not really any advantages there. But I think the key thing with the Dewback is you are trading off power for the ability to move quickly, which I think is fair. I look at these 2 units and I don't think one really stands out in my mind. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if by the stage we get them on the table, yes, we'll find that one performs slightly better than the other. That's absolutely fine. It's got a big old melee attack with critical 2 and suppressive. 3 red dice, 3 white dice. Also has the keyword relentless, so it can just charge in. It can do 2 1-speed moves with a pivot built in because it also has reposition. And just smack one of your opponent's units with a big old stick. Seems like a decent strategy anyway. Also, we have the keyword armor 3 or 1, can't quite tell, so I won't comment on that. Apart from the fact that I will reiterate that I really wish that FFG put high-res images of these cards in the articles. I don't know why they don't do that, it just causes confusion, but anyway. It has spur, so you can increase the speed of your movements by taking a suppression token. That feels great. Also unhindered, so it does not care about weird terrain. Actually, unhindered is not as fantastic on this because despite the fact that you can move through difficult terrain, you still have to find a way to sit that big base on top of like weird rocks and that kind of stuff. So it might not be that ideal. If you're sort of climbing up a steady incline with rocks on it, unhindered might actually not help you out because at the end of the day, you still have to be able to place this unit somewhere very cleanly. But yeah, look, This all sounds fantastic. The Tauntaun looks exciting. The Dewback looks equal, just with some different stat changes. I think everything seems quite fair here. What I'm hyped about is this sculpt. I just love that sort of mottled snake skin kind of look. I'm going to have a lot of fun painting this one. Looks great alongside a whole heap of Stormtroopers. Very excited to get this one in my hands. Let's pivot over to these Shore Troopers. We have here the image of the minis. Oh, by the way, FFG, when the Clone Wars was announced, did state that they would be moving towards hard plastic with all of their units eventually. It seems from what we can see here, these are still soft plastic, but given that they're big chunky models, I think that's okay. It is worth commenting though, we do have a mortar unit here, and you can see how those legs look relatively fat. I imagine if it was hard plastic, they could make it a bit more fine and spindly and get a bit more fine detail there. But I don't think for these units that really makes much of a difference, so I'm not going to complain or anything there. Here is the spread for the Shore Troopers. It is a 4-unit troop with a couple of special units. And what's interesting about this is if we take a look at the spread of cards, there is one card for the heavy unit. That's the range 1 to 4. 2 black dice, 1 white dice with critical 1. That's this mini up here with the bigger gun. But there is no extra card for this mortar unit here. But we do see the card for that sitting behind the main unit card, which means for whatever reason, this is used as a separate unit. Now, there's no guarantee about how this is going to work. There's no guarantee that you could just be able to field this by itself. It may be a stipulation on that unit card that you must field it alongside Shore Troopers, but if that was the case, why wouldn't they just make it separate? Although having said that, I think the main reason it is separate is so that you can separate out the order tokens, because there is a bit of shenanigans going on with order tokens if we take a look at this card. You can give any emplacement trooper, which is this mortar, or the E-Web for that matter, the article does state that it works on both, an order token once the Shore Trooper's got an order token. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Indeed, it is worth pointing out also that this is a core trooper, so it fulfills that requirement just like a Stormtrooper does. It's only 8 points more than a Stormtrooper unit, and I think if you're going to use things like E-Webs or mortars, you may as well take this one instead. It's just a case whether you can fit it in the list for the points. But everything seems quite decent. We get a copy of Endurance again and Overwatch in this pack. An extra trooper costs 13 points. It attacks with melee with a black dice, range 1 to 3 with its blasters with a black dice again. No surges, defends with red dice though, 1 health and constitution per mini. And apart from that, it's just the same as a Stormtrooper unit, apart from the fact that it does have the commander upgrade type, so you can do some fun stuff with that. Very curious to see what this can do with some of those command cards as well. Or if people will just take this so they can supercharge their E-Webs. I think that's quite reasonable, actually. I think it's worth sticking in one of these amongst all the Stormtroopers if you're going to take an E-Web anyway. I think the key thing here is what's going on with that mortar. We can't see how effectively it can fire. I assume it's a massively long-range kind of suppression effect, like the mortar on the ATST, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Bottom line is, yes, the Empire's getting a new core trooper. It looks a bit more flexible than the Snow Troopers, so it feels like it gives the faction a bit more variety, a bit more of an interesting point sink over just taking more Stormtroopers and slapping more units into that. Looks really, really cool, and again, the minis look awesome. Can't wait to get them on the table and start painting those. In the meantime, guys, what do you think about all this stuff? Is the Dewback or Shore Troopers going to crack open the meta? As more Legion information comes out, I will cover it. In the meantime, do not forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting my Patreon, and thank you so much to all of the existing patrons, especially you guys over on the Discord having a chat about all this stuff in our Legion channel. Always really exciting to just watch this stuff as it comes out and have a group of people to chat with, so I'm very appreciative of that. I'll catch you guys in the next video.